Hello, hello, my dear friends. Welcome back to elenasbarre, the resurgence of sanity. And today we have a special guest with us. Hi, Shah. Great to see
Hi
you.
there. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's awesome. Okay, guys, you know the topic today, right? We are talking about what women bring to the table. Besides, I am the table, right? And then we are going to have a few questions to Shah because he's done a lot of videos. Shah, I've been watching your content for quite some time now. I think all of us have been following you. And you talk a lot about dowry, right?
Yeah. That's been the rabbit hole I've been deep in probably for about a year, maybe over a year now, almost at this point.
Awesome.
Uh,
And do you have some background with the child
oh yeah,
custody? Yeah. Could you tell us
yeah,
a little bit about yourself? Because I'm not sure if people here
sure.
know you. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I used to work at a child support agency, so I was a
Mm-hmm.
child support officer, which is a fancy way of saying a child support agent.
Mm-hmm.
And my job was to, take in the cases. The ladies would come in and they'd say, "Hey, I need child support, whatever." And my job would be to find the guy, and it could be all kinds of situations. It could be she doesn't know where he's at. It could be they just got divorced and they came from across the street in the courthouse. It could be they need a genetic test. So my job was doing all that stuff and figuring out the money. And I saw that for over 5 years, and I've read
Wow.
thousands of divorce orders and judgments. So it kind of gave me a specific view on this whole thing.
Wow. So how did you end up in the red pill?
You know, even before I used to work at child support, because I started at child support in 2016, early
Uh-huh.
2016. And back in like 2013 or 14, I had found the Red Pill subreddit. And I never really participated, but I would always read the posts on there. And that kind of gave me the awareness of the space that I think that subreddit was new around like 2012 or 2013. So I just finished school and I would always read the stuff. And then when I started working at child support, I started seeing some of that come to life because a lot of it was, talking to women, but then there were guys who got divorced and they were talking about their
Yeah.
experiences. And then I started seeing it in real life and I was like, oh, wait a minute. This is like some of the stuff I read back then. So,
Yeah, you issued a
yeah.
bunch of money to the single mommies, right? And then
Yeah. Well, yeah.
destroyed.
And then even beyond that, I mean, it was when I started working there, I didn't expect what I was going to see, but then I got to see so deep into it, and then I got to see how the welfare system worked and how all that stuff interface. I could have never imagined it was that.
That
So let
bad.
me let
Hmm.
me ask you a question.
Yeah.
As you became aware of how really unjust it was towards men,
Hmm.
and you wanted to be more fair and give men a, a fair shake, benefit of the doubt, whatever, did you have the freedom or the authority to do that? Or is the system just designed to extract from men?
I would kind of always describe it like this to myself, or I'd always tell myself this even while I was working there. I'd say child support, they don't want you to have creative thinking. You just put the square in the square hole and the circle in the circle hole and the triangle in the triangle hole. And it was like really it was whatever the family law codes is what we did. And I'd hear all kinds of stories, and I wish I could make it more fair. All of the guys I talked to that were especially getting a bad shake, like I wished I could have got to them a few years before and said, hey, wait a minute, this is how the system works. So I kept feeling I would talk to a guy who's 24, 25, and he's going through this, and I would always think I wish somebody could have just got to him a few years before, not to stop him from getting married or having kids, but to let them know, hey, this is how it works. This is just how it works, just so you know, and you could maybe plan differently or make different decisions or choose differently, whatever you were going to do. So I didn't really make content while I was working at child support, but then when I stopped and I started saying I need to
Okay.
just at least share what I've seen here.
Yeah, yeah. I find your videos very, very informative, especially when you are reading these naughty old articles. Well, I personally love reading, and I was like, oh my
Yeah.
God, it's just so interesting, guys. Go watch some of those
Yeah.
videos because it will tell you how people were transitioning right from the dowry society into
Hmm.
non-dowry society, what they were thinking about, how the feminism was creeping in there. It's fascinating. It's fascinating.
Yeah, that's been a lot of fun. The old newspaper clippings, that, I wasn't expecting that. Peter Wright, who runs gynocentrism.com, he first started bringing those to my attention, and he got me
Uh-huh.
a lot of them. And then I found, another database, and I was digging around, and it's interesting how you see a lot of the stuff that we're dealing with now. The folks back then had kind of seen some of the stuff, or they kind of seen where it was going, and it was very enlightening, especially how some of these women can be predators and just taking advantage of this system and what it was now and the new thing. And that has been very eye-opening for me. There's a lot of good stuff in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How do you remember you were reading the article
Hmm.
about a college degree, how they wanted to pursue their college degree at the
Hmm.
beginning of it, instead of having a dowry?
Yeah. Well, that's what they started doing. One article
Mm-hmm.
I remember is, they're as they're kind of moving away from this, they were calling it the woman's movement back then. At least that's how it
Uh-huh.
was referenced in the article. And you start to see that they're saying, hey, well, if we're not getting dowries, then you should be giving your daughter an education, or we want to be able to work, because everybody's playing this game of love and kind of going from these dowry matches, or, marriages of reason, as they would say, to the love match, which is kind of
Yeah.
based on something irrational in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
And not everybody's winning this game of love, so to speak. So they're saying, well, a lot more women maybe are becoming spinsters or something, and you're not saving anything for us. We're not getting a dowry, so we have to be educated. So they're using that as an argument. It did seem a little bit like propaganda. Maybe that's what they wanted in some ways.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing about newspaper articles too, is like, I wonder where the slant here is, but it's like a window into that time. So as they're moving away from dowry over there in England, in the US, they're starting to say, well, we want to be educated so that we can take care of ourselves and be independent. And they don't want to be. The article title was "Dowerless Girls." That's
Oh,
what I remember
Dallas.
now.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
Thank
a
you.
woman without a dowry, basically.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah. And you remember that movie, Without a
Yeah, A
Dowry,
Cruel
that you
Romance,
watched?
the
Uh-huh.
Russian one.
Cruel
That's based
Romance.
off of the play called A Woman Without a Dowry. You told me about that. I love
Yes,
that
yes.
movie.
That was a sad movie. Every time I watch it, I cry, guys, because it is what it is. But then, like women, they say they want to be independent. How much independence do they actually get from pursuing their college degree? Because usually they obtain some useless degree, and
That's
then
the
they have
problem.
a flexible job, right? They are not the electricians, the mechanics, the plumbers who actually bring value, right? They do something soft skill, and then they call it a career. And then when they are done with it, like they still are relying on a man. They still want a man after they are being used up, run through chasing their career, getting their multiple degrees, pedigrees, and then they are still relying on the man. They want a man to be there to
Well,
wipe them up.
think about it this way: to look at the cost of college, the career choice, and how much you're going to make afterwards, and what your payments are going to be,
Mm-hmm.
that requires analytical thinking. You
Yeah.
have to you have to remove emotions and just look at the numbers. But if you're saying, "Oh, this is what I want to do," you know, lollipops, roses, and puppy dogs, um, I want to follow my heart. It's all feelings based, and there's no reality of, oh, I'm taking on debt.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm gonna get this degree, and then I'm gonna be paid diddly squat.
I'm
So
getting
when
flashbacks
reality
right now.
sets in, yeah, they still need a man.
You just reminded me of something. You just unlocked a memory. But there was a coworker I used to have, and she used to tell me about her little sister who went to one of these high-end colleges, and she really wanted to be a paleontologist. And there's this kind of strange parallel between, a love match and this kind of romantic view of a career. Like, oh, I saw this movie and I really want to be this thing. And you're not looking at it how Steve is suggesting, which is analytically or some more long term. And it's like,
Mhm.
oh, I would love to be this and I can be this and I'm in love with being this. And she got her degree in that. And I think she even pursued a higher degree and she's like $300,000 in debt. This is when I was 26 or 20. I remember this. And, she wasn't really making much money from her field or finding really relevant work. And it's just a disaster. Like, you just brought back a memory for me, Steve. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
I hope she's doing okay nowadays. I haven't heard from
Well,
them in years.
if they are struggling in one field, like I saw yesterday, oh gosh, yeah, my phone, it can be dangerous sometimes. Me with my phone, I was scrolling through Instagram, and I know I shouldn't do that, but I saw a doctor. She has a degree. She's a doctor. She was in semi-naked clothes saying that I'm a doctor here, and here is advice from me, by the way, right?
Yeah.
So they always have that path where they can make more money by selling their semi-naked pictures on OnlyFans or on Instagram. Yeah,
Yeah,
they
or look,
get the degree, they work for a few years, and then if they are paid elsewhere more money, then they are transitioning there.
well, that's what it becomes. And then it's either that or it's look for a sort of buzzer beater guy. So now you're 28, 29, hitting
Mhm.
30, and she's trying. Suddenly the love thing kind of goes away. And then it's like, can I find this guy that can kind of be a safety net for me or help take on some of this? And it's almost like a negative dowry for the guy because it's like if you think of this woman with almost 300,000 in debt, and if she gets married, it's even if her debt is from before the marriage, it's technically hers, but it's going to impact the marriage. It's going to
Of
impact
course.
where the free money's going and saving for the kids or something like that, whatever.
Absolutely. My first marriage, she came in with debt. I paid off the debt. And then when the marriage ended, she made false accusations and I was hammered. And yeah, I got kind of 50% of the house, but there was no recognition
Yeah.
for paying off her debt when I came in debt free. So yeah, it's unequal.
And most guys, like most husbands are going to be like, okay,
Yeah.
let's just take care of the debt. Let's just get back on track. And that's what they're going to do. And then
Yeah.
That's what I
I
did.
think most men's minds are just kind of like that. And then when you're hit with, oh, well, the debt's gone and I'm going to leave you now and take half the house, it's a bad deal.
Yeah.
You know?
I paid her college debt. She said she graduated, found out, nope, never had the degree, lied about it
Oh,
for
no
like
way.
11 years.
Wow.
Wow.
That's crazy. I'm sorry. Oh my God. That reminds me of something else. I had a buddy. He was an engineer, and he met his wife at the time in college. It was really bad. He went through a divorce. They didn't have any kids, so it was a little bit more of a divorce he can kind of move on from, I guess, a bit. But he was still devastated. But he was paying for everything while she was going into college, and then as she was just about to finish that up, she pulled the plug on it, and her debt was his debt because they were married. And
Oh, great.
I've seen a lot of that. Those are some wild stories, especially yours, Sandman.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that the rule is women with debt, you just they are for recreational use only. That's a hard rule.
The unfortunate, and it's like I hate to come off and say that, but it's just like it's funny looking at it through the dowry lens. It's like,
Mhm.
okay, I'm looking at a dowerless woman. Okay, that's one thing. And maybe I'm not that special myself. I'm not I'm not the CEO over here. Okay, but then you start looking at the debt, and it's just like this isn't going to work. This is just not going to work. I mean, long term, the plan isn't there, and the thing about me working at child support is I've saw so many divorce orders, and what I kept noticing is that the love seemed to die off for a lot of people. And it's what. Like Plutarch, for your question there, you can be, really in love with this person and say, okay, we can figure this out. But there's got to be a part of your brain that says, okay, listen, I need to temper the love a little bit and I need to consider these pragmatic things and say, is this a good thing or not? Gosh, I don't, I didn't ask you if I can share my screen, but I can just read it aloud. There was a comment on one of the Pearl shorts.
Oh, sure. Go ahead and share it.
Yeah, I will try to
okay.
share the screen here. Hopefully it'll work. Share screen. Okay, that's not so bad.
Yeah, let me welcome the guys who are in the chat, guys. Thank you so much for being here with us today. If you have any questions to share, please write it down. We are going to bring up your comments. And yeah, here you go, Shai. You were able to share it.
Yes. So
Mhm.
this was from a short. Pearl, I'm really grateful to her. She made a bunch of shorts, but I saw this comment and it kind of reminds me of this conversation. It's two parts, so I'll have to pull up the second part. And this part really shows how some of these pragmatic considerations from the family can really save a guy. So this person left a comment and said, "This still happened to an aunt of mine." Hopefully you guys can see that, by the way.
Yes, we can see it.
Perfect. "This still happened to an aunt of mine. Some 40 years ago, she dated a Greek guy, handsome and wealthy guy. They dated around 2 years, but when the time for serious marriage talk came in, his family asked to see the dowry, but she offered practically nothing. She was kind of a hippie wandering, traveling the world around that time. And anyway, my grandparents were not wealthy. Some 5 years later," so this is after the Greek guy's family basically rejects her when they have this serious marriage talk. "Some 5 years later, she married my uncle who migrated to the US and wasn't wealthy, but with hard work, he had a decent income." Real quick, let me just get the second one up there. Sorry about that. Right here. "He had a decent income. He didn't ask no dowry or anything from her. They divorced some 20 years later, and my uncle was devastated.
Yeah.
My aunt, at almost 60, thought she was going to get her groove back. They live near LA, so no wonder where she got her ideas from. To this day, she's still alone, but all the mental and emotional damage she did to my cousins is still there." So you can see how this kind of thinking or this pragmatic concern saved the first guy from what would have been a disaster for him, marrying this hippie woman who was giving no mind to her future like a lot of women nowadays do.
So
In terms of not giving any mind to their future.
Well, and
That,
also consider the fact that the more they delay their marriage and in pursuit of their degrees, career, they also acquire high body count. It's just
Yeah.
unavoidable.
That's another thing. And then, there's a lot of guys, that's a tough conversation because I think there's a lot of guys who kind of are not, they don't have much experience. And then at 29, 28, this woman is looking for somebody to kind of be the safety net or save them from some bad decisions. She's got a ton of experience. He doesn't have any or very little. And it's like, I don't, in some ways I can see like resentment developing maybe from the guy's side. So he's paying for everything. She goes on and she's like, "Yeah, I remember when I did this with my ex-boyfriend, or we did this with my ex-boyfriend," and she's just speaking thoughtlessly. And it's just this very weird mismatch. I don't know how to explain it, but I can see that being an issue. Hey, D'Augusta's in here. Shout out to you, D'Augusta.
So let me point out a practical thing here. One of my things that I mention quite a bit is IPA guilt. That stands for infidelity, promiscuity, and abortion. So those all relate to a woman's value. So is she going to be truthful about her past promiscuity? No, that implies high body count. No. Is she going to be honest that she had an abortion? Probably not, especially if she's a Christian woman. She's secular and there's less guilt there, but you terminated a pregnancy. That's going to have an impact. Infidelity. Was she faithful to her past boyfriends? Or, yeah, I didn't tell him. So she comes in with you. She's got this debt. She needs a man to help her. If she told him the truth, she fears he would reject her and not love her, and it wouldn't work. So she doesn't tell him the truth. So he marries her. Okay, great. Okay, problem solved. He doesn't know. What he doesn't know doesn't hurt him. But over the years, maybe 7 to 10 years, she realizes, would he love me if he really knew what I had done? Probably not. So it's fake love for a fake persona, and eventually it doesn't satisfy. And I think that explains a lot of our divorces today.
That's a really great that's a great point right there. I didn't think about that. And so much of it is built off on basically whether you call it a lie or an omission of the truth, so to speak, which is, kind of still a clever thing they're trying to pull
Yeah.
off. So it's like, and a lot of them, if they do have that conversation, they might conveniently divide the number by half or something and say, well, that one didn't count in their mind, they'll think. And then
Mhm.
as the time goes on, a lot of stuff that I've read or seen or heard from, it's like, it's not that they told them, but somehow they found out. Maybe a friend from a long time ago that knew them comes over and they let something slip out. And then it creates this whole story about, oh, wait a minute, I don't remember hearing about that. Or they find some journal that they had or something like that. And they see some piece of evidence or something from back then. And then it's just like, well, you're just being insecure. Why are you letting that bother you? That was before you guys met. But
Mhm.
the resentment is there. The
That's
they feel
that's
like they were
true.
lied to, basically. Like, oh, I didn't know that when I made this decision.
That's true from the man standpoint.
Yeah.
Now think about it from the woman standpoint. He's actually living a lie.
Yeah.
And so when someone lives a lie, they have to keep lying to cover up their past. And the burden of continuing that false lying existence, putting that on that persona, eventually it fails. You cannot live a lie for multiple years. I mean, yeah, maybe 7 to 10 years, but that's it. That deep hidden wound is festering.
Yeah. That's going to manifest somehow, whether if they're not straightforward about it. I mean, it's going to, I don't know, maybe they'll even hate their husbands or something, or kind of like you said, not know if they'd still love them. I can see that being a huge issue down. You just can't get away with things, as time goes on, the inside of our hearts is, whatever happened, it's gonna come back. There's gonna be the guilt or the shame, and you got to deal with it somehow. Yeah, I could see that. And I can see that being taken out on the husband and saying, you didn't, or you're not doing this enough, or she's unhappy and she's blaming him and he's trying everything he can. He doesn't understand why she's going through this. What a nightmare, Steve. That's a nightmare.
Yeah.
It's a common nightmare, though.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
Yeah. So, what would you? I know it's a hard question to ask, but let's say this older, used up women after they've chased their career. So you basically say they have no chance, right? Unless like how much of dowry would be helpful to them? I mean, I always because
That's
they
been like
want.
a funny question. I think, like we've done stuff in a poll, like, okay, like that can be a funny thing. Like, okay, if this is your option, if it's
Yeah,
Nala Ray or somebody and they had the OnlyFans, how much of a dowry would it take for you to consider this? And a lot of the
exactly.
guys are like, no dowry. Some guys are like $3 million or something crazy. That's the funny part of this conversation. It's just, it lends itself to
Exactly.
joking around like this.
Hey,
One thing I mentioned in my interview with Pearl, I think it was this one, was
Mhm.
that a lot of guys they're afraid to ask or they can't ask, like, what have you been doing from 18 to 29? So if people are getting married at 30, which seems to be becoming the norm these days, or is the norm now, and it's like, okay, you went to college from 18 to 22 and all that entails. Then from 22 to 29, you've been working ostensibly. So it's like, what have you saved, or what if I'm looking at it and I live in a place and this seems to be the norm around here and I have to choose one of these ladies and a lot of them have kind of entered into this,
Mhm.
then it's just like, well, I mean, is there anything that you can bring to maybe that where we can look at what we're trying to do by getting married here? We're trying to buy this $500,000 house and we got 2 kids. You want 2 kids? Okay, 2 kids. $250,000 a piece from 0 to 17 or 18. What have you been doing from 22 to 29? Did you save anything? You got anything to put into the down payment of the house? And
Down payment, yeah.
just something, I'm just trying to give them an option to say, oh, well, I got this and this and this, and there's nothing there. Then it's just, this isn't going to work. I'm sorry. Yes, I can pay for everything. And then given the laws and the way the legal system works, then it's like you sign up for that deal. It could be really bad.
Exactly. It makes total sense, actually, for men to ask this question, because if she's been doing her thing, then you are committing to her for long-term relationship. You need to know what you are getting, gentlemen, because then it's like, so you get get in a basket, and you have no idea what's going to come out of it. And this is by design. I made a video based on what my husband told me. I said that the program, it's one giant program that is designed to make men avoid and ignore the evidence of their own eyes. Women don't want you to.
It's not just a program; it's hormones.
Well, true.
Yeah,
they're told to think with their little head.
Exactly.
On the men's side. Yeah, on the woman's side, it's a design.
On the woman's side, it's a design. Yeah, it's a special program that is designed to convince men to ignore the evidence and not to ask any of these harsh questions to women. But men need to ask them, because then
I think
the life of their children.
I think we need to go back to some foundational issues here.
Mm-hmm.
What is the difference between a dowry and a bride price? Because, in our modern world, men want sex.
Mm-hmm.
What do I have to pay to get sex? Okay, so, I found this woman. She seems devoted. Yeah, she's got debt. But if I wife her up, I'm going to get sex. And yeah, I'm going to have to pay her debts and whatnot. It sounds like a bride price.
It sounds like
the dowry, on the other hand. What is the family going to pay me to have sex with this woman? So touch on that.
Well, I was just that I can see that now. Like formally, like it's kind of like a pseudo bride price in a way. Like a formal bride price. Like I think that's something like the mohar. If you're going to look at like Old Testament or something, it's not given to her. It's paid from, the man or his side to her family, typically her father's hands. That's where the transaction's going. And nowadays it seems like she's coming with all this stuff that you got to pay off, or she'll say, I am the table. What do you offer me? She's not even asking about her family or her family getting anything from this bride price. And bride price, what you saw was that, if you go further back, and if you go to what you can say is like less developed civilizations, they did practice bride price a lot. And as it got more sophisticated, agriculture got more sophisticated, what you tend to see in the history is that it moves to dowry and monogamy. But bride price was this is what I'm seeing in the anthropological stuff, is that back then you saw a lot more polygyny, meaning one man, multiple women, and you saw a lot more bride price. And the reason that the bride price was paid was because women, their labor and the way agriculture used to be was a lot more valued in terms of like economic value. So they were out there, tilling the fields and doing all that because they hadn't started using the plow, which is something that men would do. So what would happen is when you go and get married, her family is losing kind of her labors and her help. So by giving them a bride price, that enables them to then marry their son to another woman from another family. And there's this fund that kind of circulates around. What you're describing, Steve, what we see nowadays is the money doesn't circulate around to help people get married in terms of a formal bride price. What we see is she's just like, no, give me the money as compensation in exchange for the fun time, if you know what I mean. So it's more akin to something like a prostitution.
There's no hymen. Yeah. There's no hymen even. There's no hymen even.
Yeah.
At
Unfortunately,
least back then they had the bed sheets to prove it. Say, hey,
Yeah.
no, we gave you the goods.
yeah, this was the consummation, and here's the morning gift or whatever it was after that.
Yeah. Shout out to Tacticus. Thank you so much for stopping by. Yeah.
Sadly, great to see you, Tacticus.
Mm-hmm.
Cannot wait to hear about the dowry insurance.
I know.
Well, we've been raging about hypergamy insurance on our channel, so he's probably
That's
he's
a
probably
great that's a great name for that. Hypergamy insurance.
well, hypergamy insurance is something else.
Okay.
It's the belief that money, muscles, and game will somehow stop her for her hypergamy.
Yeah. I actually really like that's an interesting conversation because that touches on like what a lot of the red pill gurus will say. And they'll say if you just hold masculine frame and as long as you do this and you're just so much more high value than her, it and it seems to kind of play into this sort of gynocentric trap. It's basically saying the women's standards are up here. You can call them delusional. And it's telling the guys, hey guys, you need to measure up.
Mm-hmm.
And then it makes you into this high value target, which is, a word Coach Greg Adams has coined. And I'm seeing from working at child support what happens with that. And I've seen a lot of masculine guys and well-to-do guys get kind of fried up in there in the hot oil, unfortunately. And it didn't seem to save them. So that was something that I saw that early on. And I was just like, yeah, that doesn't seem to be and there's just too many examples out there too of just guys that are these guys going through divorces themselves. And what they'll say though is that, well, he just wasn't red pill enough, or he just wasn't this, or he didn't understand female nature enough or something. And it's just like, at a certain point, any guy is gonna, if you're married and you live with somebody and they see you when you're coming out of the shower and then, you're shaving and you're gonna be human some of the time. And I don't know, it's just, how long can you keep that up?
Yeah, really, it's a no true Scotsman fallacy, is what it is.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
There's an equivalent thing on the Christian side, the TradCon side.
Mm-hmm.
You need to go to church together every week. You need to pray together. That's your hypergamy insurance. Does that work?
I think I could see what you mean in this. I see what that's what they'll say over there at the Daily Wire. I mean, they'll say, well, if they do this more, then it's gonna lessen your chances or whatever. And I want to be like, okay, yeah, I could see that a little bit, but then you see these divorces, even on the TradCon side, where that didn't seem to exactly work. You know what I mean? And then on the other end there too, the woman is kind of in charge of saying, well, you need to. She's kind of setting the bar there or moving the goalposts on what qualifies as probably how in service or how godly of a man you are to begin with. So that's kind of another issue. It does seem like I can see the kind of mirror or the parallel on that compared to the sort of secular red pill. Well, he wasn't high value enough, or he wasn't alpha enough, or something like that. Were you religious enough?
Hey, Shaw. What do you think the divorce rate in the church is?
That's a great question. Like instinctually, I want to be like it's less because they have to at least be like, well, they have to be around that stuff more to value the family more. And I want to believe that. I think I saw something from Better Bachelor, Joker. He does the Better Bachelor channel, and he was looking at something that seemed like people who claimed religiosity or what they identified as seemed to have similar. But I've never seen what it was like in the church or seen anything like that. I would feel like it's close to the norm, but maybe a little less. Like probably by like 10, 15, 20% less, maybe.
So according to Pew Research, it's within margin of error, the same as.
Oh gosh. Well,
yeah.
I mean, yeah, if they really got numbers on that, then that does not help the TradCon argument of just pray together. Unfortunately.
Oh, I love humor.
Well, so there was one difference. If you go to a hyper religious, more like a cult type thing, and I'm not going to name the cults that they pulled out, but you have then the number goes down to, so the divorce rate in the nation's about 50%, 52%, somewhere in there. Then it goes down to about 30%.
Oh, well, that's still pretty. Man, so you got the cult acting on him, and it's still 30%. Like that's terrible. You know, it's funny. I talked to someone who reached out to me, and they mentioned that they went to it was a church. He in his own words said it was. He's like, I can see why people call it a cult, but that's what him and his wife did, and they ended up getting split up too. Unfortunately, not because of his initiation, but because of hers. And he got ran down the line also. But you know, it's like I can almost see why those folks at those kinds of churches or religious spaces will tend to become culty, because they're seeing it kind of fall apart around them, and they're like, okay, if we just really go all in on this, then this is probably the best thing we can do. But if it's still 30% over there, then it something else needs to.
Well,
I wonder if the studies have done, if the more, hyper religious you go, how much worse are their divorces compared to?
That's
yeah,
a good question too, because you got to save face. Sorry, people.
yeah. No. I was just gonna say the studies have not been
Yeah,
done.
bingo. Bingo on that.
Yeah. Well, the studies have not been done on that. Yeah, I would love to see that if they did that. And this is something I think I heard from, it was Pearl or one of those discussions, like TradCon divorces. It does seem like this kind of thing. Like it's almost like the guy has to be labeled as abusive because there has to be a very good reason, or they have to save face in the community of why they left, even if that wasn't the case. So it's just like, how do you be a good leader husband where you're curtailing certain behaviors from your wife that may not be the best, and then later on down the line, well, he was financially abusive and controlling, and or he was this or that.
Oh, they will contrive all kinds of things. In my case, it was, he accused me of having inclinations of child attraction. Inclinations. How the hell can you prove what's going on in your mind? And yet they believe her. Then she tells that to the church, and oh, yes, we understand.
Reputation well, the thing is, something like that is so like radioactive. Like they're bringing in some plutonium with them, and everybody's like, okay, we don't want to touch this at all. Whatever we got to do to help, which leads to just demonizing the guy, unfortunately. And then the worst part is there's the accusation, and it takes so long to beat the accusation. By the time that happens, like everything's split up. I mean, child support has been there after the first 3 weeks. They're in on it.
You cannot beat the accusation because proving you're innocent is impossible. That's why our justice system is predicated on proving guilt. If you can't prove guilt, hey, supposedly we have the presumption of innocence.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah, but
these accusations, it doesn't work that way.
It doesn't. It only applies to women. I was actually thinking about it, Steve, and now, and I keep saying it to my audience. It's safe to assume that all women are used up public 304s. It's just safe to assume, right? Because they've all been indoctrinated with the feminist BS. They've all pursued their career, right? They are strong and independent. So just assume that. And until proven innocent, so she has to prove with your actions that she is not dead. And
well, yeah,
it
of
only
course.
works like that.
I mean, that probabilities.
Even it's like, okay, a man, we will accuse you until you prove us innocent, but it doesn't apply to women.
Yeah, I mean, that's the probabilities.
Yeah, and I've been having some fun with Post Millman, and he comes on my channel, and we've been kind of doing a book reading of chivalry and what's really romantic chivalry and how that kind of carries over, and kind of what you're describing there, Elena. It just reminds me of that book, and it's just kind of this cultural carryover that's still embedded in a lot of our institutions of kind of the woman is usually a victim or a damsel in distress, and the guy was either need to be the hero white knight, so to speak, or you're the bad guy. A lot of times it's the bad guy. So they go in there and they see that, and yeah, like Steve says, just an accusation will be enough to get everybody to pile up against you, basically. And by the time any of it gets sorted out, if it gets sorted out, the family law court has already given the benefits of all these things. I mean, we've seen this in and other tradcon divorces too. I think of Steven Crowder, and it's like, yeah, I get that he probably could have handled himself differently in the footage, but it was still kind of edited together, and it wasn't, it wasn't this like super horrible thing that he did. He got angry, he was disrespectful, whatever. But it's just all of his own peers came out and just kind of excommunicated the guy from his group, so to speak, very fast. And that's it.
What if
it's
a
just
woman
destroyed.
does something ugly, like Nick's ex-wife?
Oh, that's easy. Well, it was Nick's fault because he's the guy. I'm sorry,
Exactly.
Nick.
Like, why not to collect more evidence from her, right? No, we just trust her blindly. When a woman accuses a man, we trust her blindly. If a man accuses a woman, oh no, you need more evidence to prove your case here. It's not enough, right? Because she's such an angel.
Well, it's that, and then it's just like after, like the way it worked over here is like they would give a temporary restraining order based off of whatever. You come to the court and you fill out the papers and you say, I claim this and this happened. The court's like, okay, here's your TRO. You get emergency custody or whatever, and we'll set a court hearing out. Now, depending on how busy the court is, that could be anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks from now, maybe even longer. God forbid it's COVID time or something. And what ends up happening is like, by the time that you can prove that, like, or if it gets dropped, if there really isn't any evidence, or even if there isn't a lot and they still think you did it anyways, it's just so much has happened, so much has changed. They're already living somewhere else with the kids, and it's hard to get it back to normal. And then if it's proved that they were lying, there's no punishment on them for lying. It's just like, oh, you beat the case.
You can't. Because I just showed that book. Believe evidence.
Yeah,
woman is crossed out. Okay, so everything in the court system is predicated on believing the woman. She says, I feel scared. He has a restraining order against him. Do they consider evidence? Not really. The evidence is her feelings of she's afraid of him. So everything goes down that path. Eventually, more evidence comes in, but you know what? You're already down that one path, and it's not going to change.
That's what I saw that a lot. And, because what they would do is I'd get on my desk, I'd see this emergency, the TRO would come on my desk and say, okay, we got to get the child support case going for this. And sometimes I'd look in there at the evidence or whatever it was. And, it wasn't like, some of them could be bad, but some of them, there really wasn't much. It was just like this or that. There's some claims there. And I would see, the hearing was set out for a while. They're already split up. He's not allowed to own a firearm at this point. It would say that, there's just all these things in there. And and I don't really blame guys for being very wary and cautious of this. I mean, I think a lot of kids that grew up probably even saw this happen to their own dad and maybe not really understand the story. And you got to think about what they're going through also. I mean, just these kids. And so then the whole communities after you, there could be real nightmare situations with that.